The Marceau is a Tier 8 French destroyer, probably a premium, but it's also only a temporary ship. As of the time of this recording, it was available for rental for about 7 days. That 7 day period for me has expired, and so the ship is gone from my port, and along with it, my access to the specs page. So we can't really go over the specs of this ship as I like to do in reviews. And in any case, it's difficult to do a review on a ship that's only a temporary sort of test ship. Eventually, I assume this will come back into the game, and when it does, I think it probably should come back at a different tier. This thing's a little bit cracked and feels unfair to play against tier 7s. I think it should be legendary tier. And spoiler alert, I do own this ship on World of Warships PC. There, it's a Tier 10 destroyer, which is our legendary tier equivalent. And as far as I can tell, they haven't really been unfaithful in the translation for Legends. The story behind this destroyer, or the main characteristics of it, you could consider it basically a Kleber with a slightly different flavor. It's more or less got a Kleber hull. It's very fast. I'm running Violet or Valet, however you say his name, as the commander. He's the more, I guess you could say, gun-focused destroyer commander, but he's a gunboat commander the same way Anton Gurin is for the Russians. All he really does with respect to the main battery guns is increase their range. He doesn't decrease their reload or anything. Nevertheless, we've got just under a 4-second reload with this thing while using the reload module. And that's basically the same sort of reload as you would get on the Kleber if you were using the reload booster consumable. Only you get this short reload all the time. And of course, the damage is pretty big. You could see there against Le Fantasque, the initial salvo we hit him with damaged him for over 2,000. However, he's about 8 kilometers away from us, and he's a very fast destroyer. So it's difficult to hit him with these shells because they are exceptionally floaty, much like the American destroyer shells. And, well, against small targets like that Fantasque that are sailing away from you, it can be difficult to hit them. You need them to be a little bit closer, and we'll see that a little bit later. Of course, we go at over 50 knots in this thing. We've got torpedoes on either side of the ship, 2 triple launchers with a 6 km range, just like the Kleber. I think they're maybe a little bit slower than the Kleber torpedoes, but they do hit pretty hard. I think we're going to miss all the torpedoes against Georgia here. But I don't see why this thing is at Tier 8. At the end of this match, you're going to get a sense of how powerful it is. Unfortunately, spoiler alert, we are not going to win, but we are going to do an awful lot of work to attempt to win, starting with taking this capture circle, which is the only one so far that our team has secured, and I think the only one we're going to secure for the entirety of this game. Also, I should mention our concealment is 6 kilometers even. Same as our torpedo range. I'm sure you could build into it a little bit more, but I think this thing is a lot more about the guns than it is the torpedoes. It's much more of a gunboat French destroyer, which is nice to see. The entire French line is supposed to be somewhat of a gunboat line, but it's difficult to play it that way. Mostly because of the way that we have the commanders for the French destroyers set up. There is really no dedicated gunboat commander that can decrease the reload time like there is on many other nations. And I think a lot of people default to playing them as more stealthy torpedo boats. You could certainly do that here, I think, but you don't have to. You can really utilize this gun power with the Marceau, and it's very good. Of course, we've got Georgia and Le Fantasque trying to undo our hard work of taking the Alpha Cap. The other enemy destroyers that are on my team, one of them is inside of the cap where we spawned. The other one is going for the Bravo Cap, and I don't think they're going to be floating for too much longer. We want to take ourselves, I think, behind this island for a second, get out of line of sight of this Georgia. Lei Fantask is in that cap. I think we're going to turn around and try to go deal with him. We simply cannot afford to allow him to take that capture circle. And we're assuming that Georgia is going to continue on the course we last saw him sailing on, which is going to take him around this island and around the corner to run straight into this Louisiana. Or maybe that actually is not a Louisiana. Of course, this is not legendary tier. It should be. That is a Nebraska at Tier 7. The Georgia is going to run headfirst into that Nebraska, and hopefully our torpedoes will be there to intercept him before he can sink that guy. The moment of truth as the Georgia rounds the corner shows that the torpedo prediction was pretty much on point. We managed to catch him with two, and both of them cause floodings. I don't think he has DCP online just now because the flooding damage continues to tick up. The Nebraska sends torpedoes of his own, but now the Georgia is behind that island in a place where he cannot shoot at us, and he is well on his way back to port. Which means if we push into this Lei Fantask to get close enough to actually utilize this insane DPM, we're going to be able to take him down quite quickly. He doesn't really stand much of a chance, which is one reason that I don't know why this thing is at Tier 8. It is a Tier 10 ship on PC, and the specs here seem to be legendary tier level specs. I think when it comes back to the game, it should be bumped up a tier. A lot of people, by the way, have made a big deal about the heal. You can see our heal is about 10 seconds from cooldown. We've already used one charge. Don't think we're going to lose any HP to this Lei Fantask, though. He goes back to port for our first kill of the game, and we're up to 71,000 damage done. The heal's off cooldown now, though, and people have been making a big deal about this one because, after all, this thing does have a crazy reload time. It's got pretty nutty DPM. It's very fast. It's at Tier 8. Probably shouldn't be. People are saying the solution here is maybe the thing shouldn't have a heal. But I kind of like the heal, and I'll tell you why. It comes from my experience of owning this ship on World of Warships PC. In that game, all of the French destroyers, this one included, have this special saturation gimmick. Saturation occurs when an enemy ship damages some part of your ship. Let's say, for the sake of example, it's the bow or the stern. Each of those sections of the ship have their own HP pool. And when they get depleted, and then they get damaged some more, the numbers get lower. So if somebody hits my bow like twice in a French destroyer on PC, they maybe deal full damage from their shells the first two times, but then on the third try, the damage numbers start going down because the bow is instantly saturated after about those two salvos. And so these French destroyers are, in a lot of cases, very difficult to sink because you get diminishing returns the more you shoot at them. Of course, that mechanic does not exist in World of Warships Legends, and this is the type of destroyer that is designed to do open water gunboating, sort of like this. It's most effective against larger battleships or cruisers, of course, because you see how floaty the shells are. It's already 10 seconds just to land these shells in a little bit of an excess of 10 kilometers, so you kind of need a large target to easily land them. If you're trying this against a destroyer, for example, at this same distance, good luck. It's going to be exceptionally difficult to land anything. But this ship invites itself to be played as a bit of an open water battleship harassing gunboat, which is one of my favorite kind of playstyles in this game for destroyers, and one of the reasons I love this ship so much on PC. That kind of playstyle is eminently achievable there, and it seems to be very achievable in this game as well. But of course, because of that, you're inviting yourself to get shot back. And this thing is balanced around that saturation gimmick on World of Warships PC, which does not exist here. So therefore, I think they gave it a heal in order to allow it to regain some extra HP, because the idea is you're going to be shooting at battleships, they're going to be shooting back at you, you're going to be shooting at cruisers too, I suppose, and other destroyers. You're going to get damaged in return. So you've got two charges of this heal to come back a little bit when that happens. I don't think that, in and of itself, is a problem. There are other destroyers that can engage in this kind of gunboaty playstyle in World of Warships Legends. Think the Khabarovsk, or the Delny, or the Tashkent. The main difference between the Marceau and those three is that they have Soviet ballistics, so they're very easy to aim at long ranges. Marceau does not, but it can get long enough range on the guns to be effective. It's super fast, it's got a pretty quick rudder, and so it can dodge incoming salvos sort of the same way they can, while also raining down a stream of golden DPM. So that, I think, is why it has a heal. That, in and of itself, is not a problem. It's the incredible damage output at Tier 8 that I think is the problem. When this thing comes back, I seriously think they should reconsider its tier placement. I don't know why it should be Tier 8 with the kind of capabilities it has. Now, though, this game has come down to an unfortunate situation where we and a friendly battleship are alone against 4 other ships, one of which is this mines, I think, that's kiting away out there. I'm hoping the battleship comes around the corner and takes out that mines. He's in a good position to do it, but of course we're caught between that cruiser. Oh, it's a Hampshire, not a mines. We're caught between that cruiser and the battleship there. We get spotted briefly, but it's not long enough for catastrophic damage to occur. Delaware does tag us with a couple of shells and removes quite a bit of HP, but we'll simply utilize the last heal. I think we hit the Delaware a little bit with a torpedo, and I suppose this is really the true playstyle of this thing. You can get in there, launch torpedoes at something that's pushing into you, you can hit them, and then you can farm them with your main battery guns. Delaware shoots at our battleship teammate, so we know his reload is on cooldown. We can begin to farm him with this HE, which does good damage when it hits, and it's got a good fire chance, particularly if you use the one skill in the legendary row on Violet. I can't remember what it's called. It's the one that reduces the HE alpha just a little bit and gives you extra fire chance. I've got that going. Rather be torching. That's what it's called. And so we're going to get some pretty good fires on this Delaware. We get the high caliber metal there. We're up to 120-something thousand damage, and Delaware goes down, leaving only 2 ships left alive, a battleship and a destroyer, versus, look at this on the blue team, a battleship and a destroyer. So there is hope for winning this game, but unfortunately it's just a fool's hope. Yes, the alpha cap is turning red, but that's because the enemy battleship is inside of it. We don't know where the enemy destroyer is. He was last seen sailing in the direction of our spawn near the Charlie cap, so it's likely he's nowhere near us. And the enemy team is so far ahead on points because Alpha was, I think, the only cap my team really went after in the course of this game, that we're going to have to sink both the battleship and the destroyer in order to win this game. And all that destroyer really has to do is stay as far away from us as possible, and he's going to be able to clinch the victory. There's less than 2 minutes left to go, so there's simply not enough time. Of course, the last remaining enemy battleship is a Veneto, and it's at full health. But the Veneto, of course, is special, because it's a Tier 7 battleship versus this monstrosity at Tier 8, which should not be at Tier 8, it should be at Legendary Tier. And if you need one single sequence or one single example to sort of demonstrate to you why, it would be this one. We're going to basically, along with our last remaining battleship teammate, who, to be fair, did manage to just land torpedoes on the Veneto, we're going to take this guy from full HP to no HP, doing a thing that something like, for example, the Kleber could do. The Kleber could pull this exact same move because it's got basically the same torpedoes. Veneto is pushing in. That's really the only way we can torpedo these guys is when they do push in. We've launched the 6 torpedoes off one side, so here come the torpedoes from the other side, and this guy's not really changing his course. In the interim, we can shoot him with our main battery guns, but it's the torpedoes that we're really going to need to fully take him out. He hits us, but it's difficult to hit us because we're so fast, and it's only one shell, so not a lot of damage with an overpen there. And there we go. Veneto, full health to no health very quickly. We're up to 174,000 damage done, but unfortunately, we cannot win the game because the enemy destroyer is one smart player. He knows what he's doing. He's not coming anywhere near me or my teammate. He's riding off into the sunset and taking the victory just as he should. GG to that guy. I think it was a Smolland. And, well, he's got over 2,000 XP along with a number of people on his team, but so do we. We have 2,300 base XP on a loss, and these numbers are not inflated by meaningless plane kills, which maybe suggests something about this ship. It's a little bit too potent. Wargaming, when you bring it back, put it at legendary tier. You can keep it as far as the specs go, and I think it'll be just fine at that tier. But at tier 8, well, I don't want to be a tier 7 fighting this thing. That's all I'll say. Hope you enjoyed the video. If so, give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.